Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a topic that has captivated humanity for, well, forever, really. The profound mystery of things just disappearing without a trace. Even, in our hyper-connected world, where everything seems mapped and monitored, the idea of a huge ship or a modern plane just vanishing, it still grips us, doesn't it? It taps into something really primal, I think. That fear of the unknown. Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into maritime and aviation mysteries, but this isn't just going to be a list of spooky stories. This deep dive is about way more than just what disappeared. It's about why these stories stick with us, why they echo through history, and honestly, what they tell us about ourselves. We've gone through a huge stack of sources for this one: historical articles, academic papers, official reports, our own notes, all digging into these vanishing points.
Exactly. And our mission today for you listening is to really pull out the most important bits, the key insights from all that material. Think of it as a shortcut, yeah? A way for you to get really well informed about the history, the psychology, the sociology, and why these mysteries are still relevant today. We found some surprising stuff, some really thought-provoking connections. This dive will help you understand not just the events, but maybe that deeper meaning we all seem to attach to them, why they keep haunting us.
Okay, so let's start way back, because this whole idea of things just vanishing, it's not new, not at all. Long before GPS, long before accurate charts even, people were encountering stuff they just couldn't explain. The sea, the sky.
Yeah.
There has been stages for the uncanny, haven't they? For things that just go missing.
Absolutely. And it goes back further than many people realize. It's not just the 20th century thing. Even think about the very early days of, say, European exploration across the Atlantic. There were weird reports. Take Christopher Columbus, 1492, his first voyage. His logs apparently mention seeing strange lights flickering over the horizon near the New World. This could be one of the earliest recorded European accounts of, weird aerial phenomena over the Atlantic.
Wow, really? Columbus?
Yeah. Imagine being out there relying on pretty basic instruments, seeing lights you can't identify. It must have added to that sense of awe, but also, deep unease about what was out there in the vast unknown. Kind of set the stage, in a way.
Incredible, right at the start. And then fast forward a few centuries, and you get a case that isn't just a strange light, but becomes the maritime mystery. The Mary Celeste.
The Mary Celeste. Yes. Yeah. What gets me about that, when it makes it so enduring, is the sheer emptiness of it all. Yeah. So 1872, this brigantine is found adrift off the Azores, and it's perfectly seaworthy. Sails partly set, hull's fine, the cargo industrial alcohol completely undisturbed.
But no people.
Exactly. The captain, Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their daughter, the 7 crewmen, all gone. Vanished.
No sign of a struggle. Nothing.
Nothing obvious, no damage, no distress signal. The ship's lifeboat was missing, and there was this rope dangling off the stern, which makes some people think, okay, maybe they evacuated quickly into the lifeboat.
Yeah.
Because of some sudden danger, and then got lost at sea.
But what danger could leave a perfectly good ship untouched? That's the question.
Precisely. That's the chilling core of it. Piracy was looked at, mutiny too, but largely ruled out. Theories range from seaquakes, rogue waves, even maybe some kind of fume issue from the cargo that made them panic and leave. But nothing quite fits all the facts. It became the ultimate ghost ship story. A functional vessel, just empty.
And even during massive conflicts like World War I, these kinds of mysteries didn't stop. Maybe the chaos even, amplified them.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, between about 1913 and 1919, during WWI, there were quite a few reports of these so-called ghost ships. The Sabrina is a famous one. A schooner found drifting in the English Channel, October 1917. Cargo intact. Everyone missing.
In the Channel. That's a busy stretch of water.
Extremely busy. Now, the official line often pointed to U-boats, obviously, or maybe sudden storms. But no wreckage, no bodies. It left this lingering unease. It's possible the sheer chaos of the war, the constant danger, the breakdown in communication, it might have magnified these fears, or maybe even provided a sort of a grim cover for incidents that might have been clearer in peacetime. Made the unexplained seem even more sinister.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because these older stories, they're fascinating, right? But they all seem to kind of merge and explode into popular culture with one really famous, really baffling modern disappearance.
You have to be talking about Flight 19, December 5th, 1945. Yeah, this one is huge. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers. A routine training mission out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The lead pilot, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, he was experienced. But About 90 minutes into the flight, he reports getting seriously disoriented.
His compasses were acting up.
Yeah, malfunctioning. He couldn't figure out where they were, thought they were over the Florida Keys, but they were actually way out over the Atlantic. His radio calls got increasingly confused.
Everything is wrong. It looks like we were entering white water. We are completely lost. Just chilling to hear.
They just wandered off.
Seemingly, yeah. Radio contact eventually just faded out. And the really profound part isn't just those 5 planes and 14 crewmen vanishing. It's that a rescue plane, a Martin Mariner flying boat sent out to find them, also disappeared, with 13 more people.
The rescue plane vanished too. It did. Now, that plane likely exploded midair. There was a known issue with fuel vapor buildup on that model. But still, vanishing while searching for the vanished. It just added this whole other layer of tragedy and mystery. And despite massive searches, hundreds of thousands of square miles, nothing. No wreckage, no debris, no trace of any of those planes or the 27 men has ever been definitively found.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. That single event, Flight 19, it basically put the Bermuda Triangle on the map in the public imagination. It felt like something was just erased.
Wow. And speaking of things that don't stay gone, there's that other really weird case. The ship that wasn't lost, but just kept going.
Oh, you must mean the SS Baychimo. That's a truly unique one, a real legend of the Arctic.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so this was a steel-hulled cargo ship. In 1931, it got trapped in pack ice off Alaska during a blizzard. The crew was actually rescued, and the ship was abandoned, considered a total loss.
Okay, so it should have sunk eventually, or stayed stuck.
You'd think. But here's the bizarre part. It didn't sink. It broke free. And then it was repeatedly sighted drifting completely unmanned for almost 4 decades.
40 years. Drifting.
Yep. Up until the last confirmed sighting in 1969, people saw it locked in ice, floating free, sometimes looking almost ghostly. There were even attempts to salvage it, but something always went wrong. Sudden bad weather, impossible ice, or the ship would just disappear again, only to pop up somewhere else months or years later.
That's incredible. It wasn't lost. It just refused to be found properly.
Exactly. It's the literal definition of a ghost ship, a real one. It completely flips the idea of a simple loss. It's like this stubborn vessel just out there drifting through the Arctic for decades, adds this really uncanny, persistent element to the whole maritime mystery thing.
It's amazing how all these stories, the old ones, the newer ones, they didn't just fade. They kind of wove together into this huge cultural thing. And it's that paradox, isn't it? The 20th century brings all this amazing tech, radar, sonar, better navigation. But instead of solving the mysteries, it almost made them deeper, more disturbing. Like, how could something still vanish now? With all our gadgets, it made the void feel even bigger somehow. So what does this all mean? Okay, we've heard the stories, but why? Why do these things resonate so much? What is it about a ship or a plane disappearing that hits us so hard, makes us uneasy, but also like completely fascinated?
Right, this is where we get into the psychology and the sociology of it all, and it goes deep. Philosophically, you can think about the concept of the sublime, which Edmund Burke talked about back in the 18th century. It's that feeling you get looking at something vast and powerful, like a huge ocean storm or the night sky. It's a mix of awe, beauty, but also sheer terror.
Yeah, that feeling of being tiny and overwhelmed.
Exactly. The vastness of the sea and sky, it's the ultimate unknown. It's fertile ground for fear, for myths, for fascination. So when something disappears into that vastness, our terror isn't just logical about the lost. It's about confronting our own smallness against this immense, indifferent power. It hits something ancient in us. And Carl Jung, the psychologist, his ideas fit here too. He talked about the collective unconscious.
Right, the shared deep-seated symbols and fears we all inherit.
Precisely. And Jung often used the ocean as a symbol for this boundless, deep realm in our minds holding ancient fears and symbols. So when a real ship vanishes into the real ocean, it kind of resonates with those deep unconscious anxieties about being lost, about being consumed, about the fuzzy line between life and death. It taps into those primal fears.
It's like our brains just can't handle the gap, can they? We need an explanation, even a weird one.
We really do. That brings us to pattern recognition and this thing called apophenia.
Seeing patterns where there aren't any, like faces in toast.
Exactly like faces in toast, or clouds, or random static. Humans are pattern-seeking machines. It's how we make sense of the world. So when something vanishes without a clear cause, no mayday, no obvious wreckage, our minds just hate that vacuum. We jump in to fill it. And that's where you get the theories. Aliens, time warps, sea monsters, secret government plots, cursed triangles. We'd almost rather invent a complex, even fantastical narrative than just accept randomness. Or worse, simply not knowing. The mind just wants an answer.
That makes so much sense. It's like a psychological defense mechanism against the chaos of not knowing. And sociologically, these aren't just individual fears, are they? They seem to reflect bigger anxieties in society.
Oh, absolutely. Sociologist Barry Glassner wrote about crisis narratives. His idea is that societies often latch onto certain threats, certain fears that aren't just about the thing itself, but represent wider anxieties.
Like worrying about one specific crime wave might actually be about deeper fears of social breakdown.
Exactly. And disappearances at sea or in the sky, they're a perfect example. They represent the fragility of our modern world, of our technology. We build these incredible machines, these giant planes, these super tankers. We have GPS, satellites, constant communication. And yet, something can still just blink out of existence. It shatters that illusion of complete control, reminds us that nature or maybe just catastrophic failure can still overwhelm us. It's humbling and frankly terrifying for a society built on technological mastery. And there's another angle too, the social rituals that spring up around these mysteries. When people vanish without a trace, no bodies, no wreck, it leaves this terrible void for the families, for the communities. There's no closure.
So people create their own ways to grieve.
They do. You see memorials, plaques, annual remembrance days, online groups keeping the memory alive. Folklore develops around the lost individuals. These rituals provide a way for collective grieving, a way to process the unthinkable loss and try to find some meaning, even if it's symbolic, when there are no graves to visit or definitive answers to hold on to. It shows how deeply we need closure.
It's strange though, isn't it? Because you'd think now, in the 21st century, global surveillance, satellites everywhere, data streams, vanishing should be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yet it still happens. Why? What does that say about our grip on the world?
It's a huge question, and it really underlines the persistent power of the unknown. Even now, the big one, the case that really shocked everyone's faith in modern visibility, has to be Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. 2014.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Right. A Boeing 7777, 239 people on board, Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. It just vanished from radar. And despite this unprecedented international search effort, years long, huge areas of the Indian Ocean, cutting-edge tech like autonomous subs, analyzing those faint satellite pings, only a few confirmed pieces of debris have ever washed up, years later, thousands of miles away.
Just fragments.
Just fragments. The fact that a plane that big with all its modern tracking could essentially disappear and remain mostly unfound even now, it was a massive wake-up call. It showed we are not always in control, not even close. It defied everything we thought we knew about modern aviation tracking.
It really did change the perception of what was possible or impossible. And then you have this other chilling idea, the ghost plane, where maybe we do find out what happened, but the initial event itself is just so eerie.
Yeah, the ghost plane phenomenon is deeply unsettling. Helios Airways Flight 522 in 2005 is a prime example.
What happened there?
Okay, so this Boeing 737 took off from Cyprus heading to Athens, 121 people. Soon after takeoff, they had a pressurization problem. A switch was left in the wrong position after maintenance. The pilots got confused by the warning alarms, didn't realize they were losing cabin pressure, and eventually succumbed to hypoxia, lack of oxygen.
Oh no. So they passed out?
Yes. But the plane, on autopilot, just kept flying for hours.
Just flying, empty cockpit, essentially.
Effectively, yes. Greek F-16 fighter jets intercepted it, and the pilots reported seeing the flight tree slumped over, oxygen masks deployed in the cabin. But the plane just flew on. It eventually ran out of fuel and crashed near Athens. Everyone died.
That's horrifying.
It is. And while we eventually figured out why technical error, human error, in response for that period it was flying, it was a true ghost plane. It shows how quickly things can go wrong in a way that looks utterly mysterious from the outside, even if there's a tragic, logical explanation found later. The gap between that initial chilling image and the technical reality is huge.
And even with explanations like that, the mystery genre, the Bermuda Triangle, it's still huge in pop culture, isn't it?
Oh, massively. The Bermuda Triangle is still shorthand for the unexplained. It pops up everywhere. Old shows like Unsolved Mysteries, new hits like Stranger Things. It's a cultural touchstone for weird disappearances.
And now online, it's just exploded.
It really has. YouTube channels do these incredibly detailed, sometimes wildly speculative deep dives. Reddit threads pick apart every tiny detail and conspiracy. TikTok videos repackage the lore with dramatic music for quick hits. It tells you something, I think, about our ongoing appetite for the unexplained. Maybe in a world drowning in information, we crave things that don't have easy answers. Stories that let us wonder about the impossible.
Which brings up a really important point. How much of what we think we know about these famous mysteries is actually true, and how much is just hype or myth that's been repeated so often it feels real?
That's absolutely critical. We need to separate the documented facts from the layers of legend and, frankly, manufactured mystery. Let's take the Bermuda Triangle itself, that name. It wasn't some ancient mariner's term. It was popularized by a writer named Vincent Gaddis in a magazine article in 1964, Argosy magazine, kind of a pulp adventure magazine.
So it's relatively recent.
Yeah, as a specific named concept. And here's the kicker, the part that often gets lost. Big insurance companies like Lloyd's of London, they keep meticulous records of ship losses for insurance rates. The U.S. Coast Guard, they investigate incidents in that area constantly. Neither of them reports a statistically higher rate of disappearances or accidents in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other heavily trafficked part of the ocean with similar weather patterns and currents.
Seriously, so it's not actually more dangerous.
Statistically, no. Many of the famous cases attributed to it have perfectly mundane explanations: severe storms, navigational errors, equipment failure, simple human mistakes, things that happen everywhere at sea. And even crazier, some of the incidents listed in popular Bermuda Triangle books. Researchers later found they either didn't happen in that area, or the circumstances were wildly exaggerated, or they just never happened at all but got repeated until they became fact.
Wow. So it's largely a product of storytelling.
To a significant degree, yes. The idea of a mysterious, deadly zone is just more compelling, more sellable than bad weather or pilot error. But then you have something like the SS Baychimo.
Right, the real ghost ship.
The real ghost ship. This wasn't manufactured. It was a genuine steel cargo ship. It really did get abandoned in the Arctic ice in 1931 after the crew was rescued. And it genuinely was sighted repeatedly, drifting unmanned for almost 40 years until 1969. Real witnesses, Inuit hunters, explorers, pilots reported seeing it. People tried to salvage it and failed.
So that one is true.
That one is true. It's this incredible documented story of a ship that just wouldn't die, wouldn't sink, wouldn't be captured. It became a legend, but a legend rooted in a very real, very strange event. It shows that sometimes reality is as weird or weirder than fiction.
That is just wild. And then there's that other one, the lighthouse mystery. Eileen Moore. That sounds like something out of, I don't know, a horror film.
The Eileen Moore Lighthouse Mystery from 1900, yeah, it's got that gothic, isolated horror vibe for sure. It's profoundly unsettling. So the Flannan Isles are these remote, uninhabited islands off Scotland's west coast. A relief ship arrives on Boxing Day, 1900, finds the lighthouse lamp unlit, no flag flying.
And inside.
Inside, it's even weirder. 3 keepers, Thomas Marshall, James DeCatz, Donald MacArthur, gone, vanished. Their beds were unmade, like they left suddenly. A meal was left untouched on the table. A chair was knocked over. The last log entry was from December 15th, mentioning severe winds, but nothing after that.
What did the investigation say?
The official conclusion was that a massive rogue wave must have swept them off the western landing stage while they're perhaps securing equipment during a storm, dragged them into the sea, but questions remained. Why would all 3 experienced keepers be outside together in such conditions? Why was the main door reportedly closed and barred from the inside, according to some accounts, though that's disputed? The details were ambiguous.
So folklore filled the gaps.
Instantly. Local stories sprang up about sea serpents, giant birds carrying them off, foreign spies, ghosts, or even that one keeper went mad and killed the others before jumping into the sea himself. It's a classic case of an ambiguous event in an isolated, spooky setting, leading to extraordinary explanations, because the mundane one, while plausible, just didn't feel complete. Didn't satisfy that need for a clear narrative. The emptiness itself became the monster.
It's so interesting how different fields approach these things. It's not just one group trying to solve it, is it? It's like this puzzle everyone wants a piece of.
Exactly right. Each discipline brings its own perspective, its own tools. Oceanographers, for example, they really emphasize the raw power of the ocean itself. They talk about things like microbursts, these sudden, intense downdrafts of air that hit the water like a giant fist, creating localized hurricane-force winds that can just obliterate a small vessel or capsize a larger one in seconds. No warning, little trace.
Like an invisible hammer from the sky?
Pretty much. And then there are rogue waves. These aren't myths. They're real documented phenomena. Waves that can be 2, even 3 times higher than the surrounding waves, appearing out of nowhere in deep water. They can break a large ship's back or just swamp it entirely, burying it under tons of water almost instantly. Again, very little chance for a distress call, maybe very little wreckage. The ocean itself can just swallow things whole.
So sometimes it's not mysterious forces, just brutal physics. And for planes, what do aviation experts point to?
For aviation, spatial disorientation is a huge one, especially flying over water at night or in clouds. When pilots lose the horizon, lose those visual cues.
Their inner ear gets confused.
Exactly. Your sense of balance goes haywire. You might feel like you're flying level when you're actually banking or climbing when you're descending. It's incredibly insidious. This can lead to what they call a graveyard spiral. The pilot keeps correcting based on false sensations, tightening a descending turn until the plane impacts the water or breaks up from the stress. It can happen fast, and again, might not leave much evidence if it's over deep ocean. Other factors are things like sudden catastrophic equipment failure, structural issues, or even mid-air collisions, though those are rarer now with better tracking.
And then, of course, you have let's call them the alternative theories, the ones that really capture the imagination, even if they're not exactly mainstream science.
Right. And it's worth mentioning them because they are part of the cultural conversation around these mysteries, even if they lack scientific proof. Parapsychologists or alternative theorists might talk about things like ley lines, these supposed alignments of ancient sites creating energy fields that could disrupt things, or magnetic anomalies, areas where the Earth's magnetic field is unusually strong or weak, potentially messing with compasses, or even, some suggest, reality itself.
Portals and stuff like that.
Yeah, you get into ideas of interdimensional rifts, time warps, concepts suggesting ships and planes aren't just destroyed, but somehow transported elsewhere. Again, no scientific backing for these, but they offer explanations, however fantastical, for events that seem to defy normal physics. They tap into that desire for an extraordinary answer to an extraordinary puzzle. We mention them because they are a part of the lore people discuss. And on a more academic level, you have cultural historians like Dr. Marina Warner, who look at these stories as modern myths. Her idea, and others like it, is that in our largely secular scientific world, these unexplained disappearances fill a similar role to ancient myths. They help us grapple with big questions: fate, chance, the limits of our knowledge, our relationship with nature, our fear of the unknown. They provide narratives that give some kind of meaning, even if it's a cautionary one, to the inexplicable, much like old myths explained lightning or seasons. They become modern fables about humility and the boundaries of human power.
Okay, let's really dive into a few more specific cases, the ones that just scream mystery and show the sheer range of these puzzles.
We absolutely have to circle back to Flight 19 properly, just because it hits so many of those baffling notes. Remember, December 5th, 1945, 5 Navy planes, experienced laid pilot the Kent Taylor, routine flight plan, but then total disorientation. Compasses fail. Can't see land when they should. Radio calls getting desperate. We don't know where we are. Entering whitewater, completely lost.
And the tower trying to guide him, but he just seems beyond reach.
Exactly. He's given instructions, bearings, but he seems unable to process them or trust them. He orders his flight east, then west. The final chilling instruction: ditch together when the first plane runs low on fuel. And then silence. And then the rescue plane, the Martin Mariner, also vanishes without a trace. Yes, likely exploded, but still no wreckage confirmed. 14 men on the Avengers, 13 on the Mariner. 27 people, multiple aircraft, gone. No confirmed debris ever. It's the sheer scale and the utter lack of physical evidence that makes it the archetype.
It's one thing for planes to vanish mid-flight, but finding an empty ship, that's different. The MV Joyita, that sounds like a Pacific version of the Mary Celeste, but maybe even creepier.
The Joyita case from 1955 is deeply unsettling, yeah. Very Mary Celeste-like, but with its own disturbing details. So this motor vessel is found adrift in the South Pacific, way off course, over a month after it went missing. It's waterlogged, listing heavily, but still afloat.
And the people.
All 25 passengers and crew gone. This included families, officials, a doctor, just vanished. On board, it was weird. Engines covered, but a pump was running. Suggests they knew they were taking on water. But signs pointed to a very sudden, maybe panicked evacuation. The ship's logbook, missing. But a doctor's bag and medical supplies were found out on deck as if dealing with an urgent crisis.
Like someone got badly hurt.
Maybe. The radio was set to a distress frequency, but no SOS was ever logged. 5 tons of cargo were missing, and crucially, the dinghy and 3 life rafts were gone.
So they did abandon ship.
It seems almost certain they did. But why so suddenly? Why no SOS? Theories range from mutiny, piracy, though valuables were left, maybe a catastrophic leak combined with engine failure that forced them into the rafts quickly, hoping to reach land. But the rafts and those 25 people were never seen again, despite the ship itself staying afloat. That complete disappearance of everyone after leaving a still floating vessel, that's the enduring puzzle.
Okay, and then there's the one that sounds purely like nightmare fuel, the one that might even be legend but is just too creepy not to mention. The Orang Medan.
Ah, yes, the SS Orang Medan. This one is fascinating precisely because it teeters on that edge between possible forgotten tragedy and full-blown maritime urban legend. It's important to say up front, there are no official shipping records confirming a vessel with this name or the incident. But the story persists, and it's chilling.
What's the story?
Supposedly, sometime in the late 1940s, maybe 47 or 48, ships in the Strait of Malacca pick up a garbled SOS. It's from the Orang Medan, a Dutch freighter. The message is terrifying. SOS, all officers including captain dead, lying in chart room and bridge, probably whole crew dead. In a pause, more garbled Morse, and finally, I die. Right. So a nearby American ship, the Silver Star, supposedly locates the Orang Medan. It's silent, looks undamaged, they board it, and the scene they find is horrific. The entire crew, even the ship's dog, are dead, but they're frozen in poses of absolute terror. Eyes wide, mouths open, arms reaching out as if fighting something off. Yet, no injuries, no signs of violence.
Dead from fright.
That's the application. The story also often includes details like an unnatural chill in the air despite the tropical heat, or maybe extreme heat in the cargo hold. Just as the boarding party decides to tow the ship, smoke erupts from below deck, they barely escape, and the Orang Medan explodes violently and sinks.
What could possibly cause that?
Theories are all over the place. The most common involve the ship secretly carrying dangerous, unstable cargo, maybe leftover chemical weapons like nerve gas from WWII, or volatile chemicals like potassium cyanide reacting with seawater that leaked, causing agonizing deaths and the eventual explosion. Others suggest pirates using some unknown method, carbon monoxide poisoning, or even supernatural attack. Real or legend, the Orang Medan taps into that primal fear of an unseen silent killer. It perfectly blurs that line between a potential real horror and a truly effective, terrifying story.
It's easy for us, maybe in the West, to focus on things like the Bermuda Triangle, but this fascination isn't just ours, is it? These kinds of disappearances resonate everywhere, just maybe interpreted differently.
Absolutely. The core fascination is universal, but the cultural lens is unique. Japan, for instance, has its own notorious area, the Dragon's Triangle, or Mano-umi, the Devil's Sea. It's a stretch of ocean south of Tokyo, around Miyake Island, also associated with disappearing ships and planes for centuries. Very similar reputation to the Bermuda Triangle.
But with dragons.
Yeah, the local folklore is rich with legends of powerful sea dragons, underwater cities that claim sailors, or mystical forces at play. It's not just seen as bad luck or weird physics, it's often tied to these powerful mythological beings or forces specific to Japanese culture. Even Japanese authorities reportedly marked it as a danger zone at one point. Same phenomenon, different mythos.
And places with really old seafaring traditions, like Scandinavia, I bet their folklore is full of this stuff.
Oh, definitely. Nordic lore is steeped in the sea as this liminal space, a threshold to other worlds, full of powerful, often dangerous entities. You have the half-oak sea people, things like the Huldra, who might lure sailors, or the Draugr, the ghosts of the drowned who guard their watery graves, or the Nukken, a spirit that lures people to drown with music. So a disappearance might not be seen as just an accident. It could be interpreted as being taken by these entities, often as a consequence of showing disrespect or hubris towards the sea's power. The sea demands respect in their folklore. And if you look at indigenous Pacific Islanders, their connection is even more profound. For cultures that navigated vast oceans using stars, currents, and deep environmental knowledge for millennia, the ocean is sacred, alive. Disappearances there are often woven into their spiritual cosmology. It might be seen as a consequence of breaking taboo, disrespecting ocean spirits, or losing the necessary balance and harmony required for safe passage. It's less about a mystery to be solved and more about understanding one's relationship with a powerful, sentient environment.
So it's the same event, a ship vanishes. But the meaning, the why, changes completely depending on the cultural background.
Exactly. In the West, it often becomes a story about the limits of our technology, our struggle against nature, a puzzle to be solved scientifically. In other cultures, it's more often a moral tale, a story about spiritual balance, respect for nature, or the consequences of human actions in a world perceived as enchanted or spiritually potent. The core human need to explain the inexplicable is there, but the framework for explanation is vastly different.
Which brings us to a critical point. What are the wider implications of being so fascinated by these mysteries? It's captivating, no doubt. But is there a downside? What's the trade-off for loving the unexplained so much?
That's a really important question for us to think about, especially as consumers of these stories. We need to be critical. First, the positives. These stories absolutely fuel imagination, inspire art, literature, film. They create compelling narratives. They also genuinely push scientific inquiry. Meteorologists studying rogue waves, engineers improving aviation safety, psychologists studying fear. That interdisciplinary push is valuable. And maybe most importantly, they instill a sense of humility. They remind us that despite all our tech, we haven't conquered everything. Nature is powerful, the unknown still exists. That's probably healthy.
Okay, so they make us curious, creative, maybe a bit more humble. But what about the negatives, the pitfalls?
Well, the big one is sensationalism and misinformation. These stories are so easily hyped up. As we saw with the Bermuda Triangle, dramatic myths can totally overshadow facts, and that sensationalism can be really exploitative. Real people died in many of these incidents. Real families are grieving. Turning their tragedy into fodder for wild, unsupported conspiracy theories can be incredibly hurtful and disrespectful. It can also distract from finding real answers or learning real lessons. Plus, the obsession with the extraordinary, the supernatural, can sometimes lead people to dismiss plausible scientific explanations. That makes it harder to actually improve safety based on what we learned from accidents. And that leads to real dangers, doesn't it? If we're focused on, say, aliens in the Bermuda Triangle, are we ignoring actual safety issues?
Exactly. Focusing on a mythical vortex might mean we neglect to push for better storm forecasting, stricter maintenance regulations, improved pilot training for disorientation, or addressing how climate change is making oceans rougher.
If people blame disappearances on unknowable forces, there's less pressure to investigate potential human error, systemic failures, or regulatory gaps that could be fixed to prevent future tragedies. And on a broader level, constantly embracing mystery over evidence, especially when it bleeds into conspiracy theories, can erode trust in science, in official investigations, and maybe even fuel a general distrust of established knowledge. That's not healthy for society.
So it really comes down to balance, doesn't it? For us, for you listening. Appreciate the wonder, the human drama, the genuine unanswered questions. But keep a critical eye out for the hype, the misinformation, the stuff that distracts from reality. We've covered a lot of ground today. Centuries of vanishings from Columbus's strange lights to MH370. We've looked deep into why these stories grip our psyche, how they persist even now. We've seen how culture shapes the meaning we find in them.
Yeah, and ultimately these mysteries stick around because they reflect our biggest questions, don't they? Where do we go? Can technology save us from everything? Are there limits to what we can know? They're not just about lost vessels, they're about the edge of knowledge, the fragility of life, and that constant magnetic pull of what lies just beyond our sight. Modern fables, in a way.
Yeah.
And in a world that feels increasingly known, mapped, and data-driven, these mysteries are stark reminders that some things still resist easy answers. Maybe they're unsolved not because they're truly supernatural, but because they force us to confront the limits of our current understanding, the sheer power that still exists outside our control. They keep us humble.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. As technology like AI and real-time global imaging gets even better, will these kinds of mysteries finally disappear? Will we solve them all? Or will the unknown just change shape? Will we find new kinds of vanishing points, new complexities we haven't even imagined yet? And maybe thinking about why these stories affect us psychologically and culturally. How might that change the way you look at the next unexplained event or any big unanswered question you encounter? Keep diving deep.